The crystal palace of the Zephyrian Empire sparkled under three purple suns. Inside its gleaming halls, delegates from across the galaxy gathered for the most important trade summit in decades. Queen Thessara sat on her throne, her body made of living crystal that glowed with inner light. She was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Marcus Chen adjusted his simple black suit and looked around the massive room. As Earth's ambassador, he felt very small among all the alien species. The Zephyrians were twice as tall as humans, with bodies that looked like walking gemstones. They moved with grace and spoke in musical voices that echoed through the halls. The Queen's twin daughters, Princess Lyra and Princess Nova, floated near the throne. Their crystal bodies sparkled blue and silver. They were young by Zephyrian standards, maybe equivalent to human teenagers. Marcus had noticed them whispering and pointing at different delegates during the morning sessions. "The human delegation will present their trade proposal now," announced the Queen's advisor. His crystal body flashed red with each word. Marcus stood and walked to the center of the room. He could feel hundreds of alien eyes watching him. The Zephyrians thought humans were primitive. They had better technology, longer lives, and beautiful crystal bodies. But Marcus knew humans had something special too, even if he couldn't name it. "Your Majesty," Marcus began. "Earth offers rare minerals and agricultural products in exchange for your advanced crystal technology." The Queen listened politely, but Marcus could see she wasn't very interested. To her, humans were just another small species trying to trade with the mighty Zephyrian Empire. After the presentation, delegates broke for lunch. Marcus walked through the palace gardens, admiring the crystal trees that sang in the wind. He noticed the two princesses exploring near some old walls covered in strange symbols. "Those are the ancient ruins," a Zephyrian guard explained when Marcus asked. "Very old, from before our empire. The lower levels are dangerous. No one goes there anymore." Marcus nodded and continued his walk. He had studied archaeology before becoming a diplomat. The old symbols looked familiar, like markings he had seen on other worlds. They usually meant structural weakness in ancient buildings. An hour later, alarm bells rang throughout the palace. The sound was beautiful, but terrifying, like crystal wind chimes in a storm. Guards rushed everywhere, their crystal bodies flashing bright red. "The princesses are missing," shouted a guard captain. Queen Thessara appeared in the main hall, her crystal body now glowing angry white. "Find my daughters. Lock down the palace. No one leaves." Marcus felt his stomach drop. Being a human in an alien palace, when the royal children went missing, was not a good position. He could already see Zephyrian guards looking at him with suspicion. "Search every room, question every delegate," the Queen commanded. Her voice echoed like breaking glass. "Someone has taken my children." The search began immediately. Guards poured through every corridor, every room, every closet. They used advanced scanners that could detect life forms through walls. They checked air vents, transport tubes, and even the gardens outside. Marcus and the other human delegates were taken to a waiting room. Two crystal guards stood by the door, watching them carefully. The lead guard's name was Commander Zeeks. He kept staring at Marcus with distrust. "Where were you during lunch break, human?" Commander Zeeks asked. "Walking in the gardens," Marcus replied calmly. "I spoke with one of your guards about the ancient ruins." "Why were you asking about the ruins?" The commander's crystal body flashed red. "I used to be an archaeologist. I was curious about the old symbols." This seemed to make the commander even more suspicious. Marcus realized that mentioning his interest in the ruins was probably a mistake. Hours passed with no sign of the princesses. The palace scanners found nothing. Security cameras showed them walking near the ancient ruins during lunch. Then, nothing. It was like they had vanished into thin air. Queen Thessara called an emergency meeting. All the delegates gathered in the main hall. Her crystal body was now pulsing with white and red light, showing her anger and fear. "My daughters are gone," she said, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. Someone in this room knows what happened to them. She looked directly at Marcus. The humans arrived 3 days ago. Yesterday, they asked many questions about our palace structure. Today, my daughters disappear. Marcus felt every alien eye in the room turn toward him. The other human delegates looked scared. This was becoming a diplomatic disaster. Your Majesty, Marcus said carefully. We would never harm your daughters. We came here for peaceful trade. Nothing more. Peace? The Queen's laugh sounded like crystal bells breaking. Your species is known for violence and deception. Perhaps you thought taking my children would give you power over our negotiations. Reckland. Ford. Channelman. The accusations hurt, but Marcus kept his voice calm. I understand you're worried about your daughters, but we had nothing to do with their disappearance. Let us help you search for them. Help? Commander Zeke stepped forward. Why would we trust the species that probably took them? The room filled with angry crystal voices. Other alien delegates started backing away from the humans. Marcus realized they were all alone now. Even their supposed allies didn't want to be associated with them. Outside, more alarm bells rang. The search was spreading beyond the palace to the entire city. Soon it would cover the whole planet, then the star system. The Zephyrian Empire was mobilizing everything to find their missing princesses. Marcus looked out the window at the crystal spires of the city. Somewhere out there, 2 young alien princesses were lost or hurt or worse, and everyone thought he and his people were responsible. The worst part was that Marcus had a growing feeling about where the princesses might be. Those ancient ruins, the structural symbols he had seen, the way they had simply vanished near that area. But if he mentioned it now, it would only make him look more guilty. The night brought no relief. Search teams worked under bright crystal lights that turned the palace into a glowing beacon visible from space. Marcus sat in the detention room with his fellow humans, listening to the sounds of boots and scanner beeps echoing through the corridors. Commander Zeeks returned with fresh accusations. His crystal body pulsed red with anger. Our deep scanners found nothing in the palace. This means the princesses were taken off-world. Only your human ship has the stealth technology to avoid our detection. Marcus shook his head. Our ship is being watched by your guards. Check the logs. No one has left or entered since we arrived. Logs can be faked, the commander said coldly. Human technology is primitive, but your species is known for tricks and lies. Through the window, Marcus could see Zephyrian military ships launching into space. The search was expanding to 3 entire star systems. Millions of crystal soldiers were now looking for the missing princesses. The Queen was using the full might of her empire. Dr. Sarah Kim, Marcus's science advisor, whispered quietly to him. The energy readings from the Palace Foundation are getting stronger. Something is definitely wrong with the structure below us. Marcus had noticed it too. His archaeological training made him sensitive to signs of structural problems in old buildings. The ancient ruins beneath the palace were showing stress patterns that suggested recent collapse or shifting. But mentioning this would only make the Zephyrians more suspicious. They would think he was trying to distract them or cover up evidence. Marcus decided to stay quiet and hope the search teams would figure it out themselves. Queen Thessara appeared on every communication screen in the Empire. Her crystal face was pale with worry and bright with anger. My daughters have been taken by enemies of our people. The message was clear. Someone would pay for this crime, and the humans were the most likely suspects. Marcus spent the long night thinking about the princesses. They had seemed curious and friendly during the summit meetings. Princess Lyra had asked him questions about Earth's oceans. Princess Nova wanted to know about human art and music. They were just children, really. Despite their alien appearance, morning came with more bad news. The search had expanded to 12 star systems with no results. The Zephyrian military was stopping every ship, scanning every planet, checking every moon and asteroid. The entire empire was in panic mode. Other alien delegates started leaving the palace. The trade summit was clearly over. No one wanted to be associated with whatever had happened to the princesses. The humans found themselves completely isolated. Perhaps, suggested Ambassador Vrex from the Centauran Republic, the humans should be handed over to Zephyrian justice. For the sake of peace. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. Zephyrian justice for crimes against the royal family usually meant execution. And it would be a very slow, very public execution. Commander Zeke seemed pleased by this suggestion. The Queen is considering all options. If the princesses are not found soon, there will be consequences. The pressure was building from every direction. Marcus could see his fellow humans starting to panic. They had come here for peaceful trade, and now faced being executed for a crime they didn't commit. But Marcus kept thinking about those structural readings. The ancient symbols he had seen near the ruins. The way the princesses had simply vanished in that area. Everything pointed to the same conclusion. But it was a conclusion that might sound like a desperate lie. Around midday, new search teams arrived with even more advanced equipment. They brought deep-ground scanners that could see through solid rock. They had atmospheric analyzers that could detect the smallest traces of Zephyrian crystal biology. Marcus watched them work and noticed something important. The teams kept avoiding the area around the ancient ruins. When he asked why, a technician explained that the old crystal formations interfered with their scanners. The ancient materials create too much background noise, the technician said. Our equipment can't get clear readings through those old structures. This was exactly what Marcus had been thinking. If the princesses were trapped in the old ruins, the Zephyrian scanners would never find them. The same advanced technology that made the Zephyrians so powerful was blind to anything hidden in their own ancient past. Marcus made a difficult decision. He asked to speak with Commander Zeeks privately. I want to help search for the princesses, Marcus said. The commander's crystal body flashed with suspicious anger. Why would we let the probable kidnapper help search for his victims? Because I notice things your people miss, Marcus replied carefully. Humans see problems differently than Zephyrians. We might find something your scanners can't detect. Your primitive human senses against our advanced technology? The commander laughed. A sound like ice cracking. Ridiculous. But Marcus could see the commander was desperate. 2 days of searching with the Empire's best equipment had produced nothing. Queen Thessara was becoming more angry and unstable with each passing hour. Soon she might order the execution of all the human delegates just to have someone to blame. What do you have to lose? Marcus asked. Keep guards with me. Watch everything I do. If I find nothing, you can add attempted deception to my crimes. If I find something, you save the princesses. Commander Zeeks considered this for a long moment. His crystal body slowly shifted from red to orange, showing he was thinking hard about the proposal. You have 1 hour, he finally said, under heavy guard. Any suspicious move, and you will be stopped permanently. Marcus nodded. It wasn't much, but it was a chance. He just hoped the princesses were still alive wherever they were, and he hoped his human intuition was better than Zephyrian technology. As they prepared to leave the detention room, Marcus heard new alarms echoing through the palace. Something had happened. Something that made the crystal guards look even more worried than before. Queen Thessara's voice boomed through the communication system, her words sharp with desperate fury. If my daughters are not found within 6 hours, I will declare war on every species that attended this summit, starting with the humans. Marcus walked through the palace corridors surrounded by 6 crystal guards. Commander Zeeks followed closely behind, his hand on his energy weapon. The threat of war hung in the air, like poison. 6 hours until Queen Thessara would start a conflict that could destroy entire worlds. Where do you want to search, human? Commander Zeeks asked with cold suspicion. Marcus pointed toward the ancient ruins area. The commander's crystal body flashed angry red. Those areas were already checked. Multiple times. There is nothing there. Maybe, Marcus said quietly. But I'd like to see for myself. They walked to the garden area where the princesses had last been seen. Ancient crystal walls rose up covered in old symbols that most Zephyrians ignored. To them, it was just historical decoration. To Marcus, it was a story written in stone about structural weakness and danger. Marcus knelt down and put his ear to the ground. The guards laughed at this primitive human behavior. But Marcus had learned this technique from his grandfather, who had been a miner on Earth. Sometimes the best technology was just listening carefully. "What are you doing?" Commander Zeeks demanded. "Listening," Marcus replied. He moved to different spots, pressing his ear against the crystal ground. "Your people have advanced hearing, but you listen for crystal harmonics. I'm listening for something different." "No." After several minutes, Marcus heard it. A very faint sound, like tapping or scratching, coming from deep underground. It was so quiet that even his human ears almost missed it. "There," he said, pointing to a spot near the ancient wall. "Something is moving down there." Commander Zeeks activated his scanner and shook his head. "Nothing. The readings show solid crystal foundation." But Marcus was already studying the ancient symbols on the wall above that spot. His archaeological training helped him recognize the pattern. These symbols warned about unstable ground, underground chambers, and dangerous levels below. The ancient Zephyrians built warning systems, Marcus explained. These symbols say there are hollow spaces underneath. Your scanners can't see through the old crystal, because it's a different composition than modern materials. And the commander looked uncertain for the first time. Even if there are old chambers below, how could the princesses reach them? The ground is solid crystal. Marcus examined the base of the wall more carefully. His human eyes, trained to look for things that didn't belong, spotted something the Zephyrian searches had missed. A small crack in the crystal, recently formed, barely visible unless you knew where to look. "Here," he said, running his finger along the crack. "This wasn't here 3 days ago. Something made the ground shift recently." Commander Zeeks scanned the crack with his equipment. This time, his readings showed something different. Marcus pressed against the crystal around the crack. His human strength wasn't much compared to Zephyrian power, but he could feel the ground was unstable. What if it was bigger when they fell through? What if it collapsed afterward, sealing them inside? The possibility hit Commander Zeeks like a physical blow. His crystal body went from red to white with sudden fear. If the princesses had fallen into an ancient underground chamber and the entrance had collapsed, they could be trapped down there, slowly dying in an environment their crystal bodies couldn't survive. "We need excavation equipment," the commander said urgently. "Heavy mining tools to break through the crystal." "That will take hours," Marcus replied, "and it might cause more collapse." Before the commander could stop him, Marcus lay flat on the ground and put his mouth near the crack. He took a deep breath and shouted as loud as he could. "Princess Lyra, Princess Nova, can you hear me?" The guards thought he was crazy, but Marcus had learned this technique during cave rescues on Earth. Sometimes the human voice could carry through spaces where other sounds couldn't reach. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then, very faintly, they heard it. A weak tapping sound from deep underground. The rhythm was deliberate, like someone trying to signal for help. Commander Zix's crystal body blazed with sudden hope and terror. "They're alive! They're down there!" Marcus was already pulling off his diplomatic jacket. "I need rope, water, and emergency lights, and I need them now." "What are you doing?" the commander demanded. "I'm going down there," Marcus said simply. "I'm small enough to fit through spaces your people can't reach, and humans are better at surviving in hostile environments than crystal beings." The commander stared at him in shock. You would risk your life for our princesses? Even after we accused you of kidnapping them? Marcus was already tying rope around his waist. Their children in danger. Nothing else matters. Within minutes, a team of engineers arrived with excavation tools. But instead of heavy mining equipment, Marcus asked for smaller, more precise instruments. He needed to widen the crack just enough for a human to squeeze through without causing a major collapse. Working carefully, they opened a passage barely wide enough for Marcus to fit. The hole led down into darkness that their lights couldn't penetrate. Air coming up from below smelled wrong, toxic, and dangerous. "Sir," one of the guards said nervously, "the atmospheric readings show poisonous gases below. The air down there will kill you within hours." Marcus nodded and checked his emergency breathing mask. It would give him maybe 6 hours of clean air. After that, he would die, just like the princesses. "The princesses don't have breathing masks," he said. "They've been down there for almost 3 days. If they're still alive, they won't be for much longer." Commander Zeeks grabbed Marcus's arm. His crystal fingers were surprisingly gentle. "Why are you doing this? You could die down there." Marcus looked at the commander, then at all the Zephyrian guards watching him. "Because it's the right thing to do. Because they're children who need help. Because that's what humans do." Before anyone could stop him, Marcus rappelled down into the darkness. The rope played out behind him as he descended through ancient crystal formations that scraped against his body. The air got worse with each meter down. After what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes, Marcus's feet touched solid ground. He was in a large underground chamber, filled with broken crystal formations and poisonous mist. And there, huddled against the far wall, he found them. Princess Lyra and Princess Nova were barely alive. Their crystal bodies had large cracks running through them, and their inner light was so dim it was almost gone. They were curled together, trying to share what little life energy they had left. Marcus rushed over to them, his heart breaking at how small and scared they looked. "I'm here," he said softly. "I'm going to get you out of here. I'm going to get you out of here." Princess Lyra opened her eyes weakly. When she saw Marcus, tears of liquid crystal rolled down her face. "The human," she whispered. "You came for us." Numb. Marcus wrapped his jacket around both princesses, trying to protect them from the toxic air. He activated his emergency beacon and shouted up to the surface. "I found them. They're alive, but hurt. I need medical equipment down here now." The response came back immediately. "Medical team is coming. Can you keep them stable?" Marcus looked at the 2 dying alien children in his arms. Their crystal bodies were slowly losing cohesion in the toxic environment. He had maybe an hour before they would die, and he had no idea how to save them. But he was going to try everything he could think of, because that's what humans did. They never gave up on saving lives. Marcus held the 2 princesses close, feeling their crystal bodies growing colder in his arms. Princess Nova was unconscious, her light so dim it was barely visible. Princess Lyra kept trying to speak, but her voice was getting weaker. "Don't try to talk," Marcus said gently. "Save your strength. Help is coming." But he could see the truth in their dimming crystal faces. They were dying. The toxic air was poisoning their crystal matrix, causing their bodies to slowly break apart. Even if medical help arrived in the next few minutes, it might be too late. Marcus made a desperate decision. He had studied alien biology during his diplomatic training. Zephyrians were crystal beings who absorbed energy from heat and light. The cold, dark chamber was slowly killing them. He wrapped his jacket tighter around both princesses and pulled them against his chest. Human body heat was different from crystal energy, but it was better than nothing. Then he activated every light he had brought with him, creating a small, warm bubble in the deadly chamber. "What are you doing?" Princess Lyra whispered. "Sharing my heat with you," Marcus replied. "Humans run hot. Maybe it will help." Above them, Marcus could hear the sounds of rescue equipment being lowered down, but the process was slow and careful. One wrong move could collapse the entire chamber, crushing all three of them. Marcus started talking to keep the princesses conscious. "Tell me about your favorite places in the palace. What do you like to do for fun?" 1. Princess Lyra managed a weak smile. "We like to explore. That's how we found this place. There was a crack in the garden wall, and we wanted to see where it led." "The ground gave way under us," Princess Nova added softly, her consciousness returning slightly. "We fell so far. We thought we were going to die down here." Marcus felt anger burning in his chest. These children had fallen through unstable ancient foundations that should have been properly sealed. The Zephyrian Empire's advanced technology was so focused on the future that they ignored dangerous problems from their past. "You're not going to die," Marcus said firmly. "I promise you that." But even as he spoke, he could feel the toxic air burning his lungs despite his breathing mask. The poisonous gases were stronger than his equipment was designed to handle. He might die down here too, but he would make sure the princesses got out first. Medical equipment finally arrived via rope and pulley. Marcus helped attach monitoring devices to both princesses, while Zephyrian doctors shouted instructions from above. The readings were bad. Both children were in critical condition. "We need to get them to the surface immediately." Dr. Helios called down. "Their crystal matrices are failing." Doctor. But moving them was dangerous. Princess Nova was too weak to hold on to a rescue harness, and Princess Lyra could barely stay conscious. Any mistake during the lift could kill them. Marcus made another difficult decision. "Send down a medical stretcher. I'll ride up with them to make sure they stay stable during transport." "Absolutely not," Commander Zix's voice echoed down. "The weight limit won't support all three of you safely." "Then make 2 trips, Marcus replied. "Send up the princesses first. I'll wait here." "No." Princess Lyra grabbed Marcus's hand with surprising strength. "Don't leave us. Please don't leave us." The fear in her voice broke Marcus's heart. These children had been alone in the dark for 3 days, slowly dying, thinking no one would find them. He couldn't abandon them now, even for a few minutes. "Okay," Marcus said softly. "I'll stay with you. We'll all go up together." The rescue team worked for another hour to modify their equipment. Meanwhile, Marcus shared his water and emergency food with the princesses. He told them stories about Earth, about human children who loved to explore just like they did. "Humans have princesses too?" Princess Nova asked weakly. "Not exactly like you," Marcus smiled. "But we have children who are curious and brave, and sometimes get into trouble, because they want to see new things." Finally, the modified rescue platform was ready. Marcus helped secure both princesses to the stretcher, then strapped himself beside them. The ascent was slow and terrifying. Ancient crystal formations crumbled around them as they rose through the unstable passage. Halfway up, Princess Lyra's crystal body began to crack further. Warning alarms sounded from her medical monitors. She was going into crystal shock, a condition that could kill her within minutes. "Her body temperature is dropping too fast," Dr. Helios called down. "She needs immediate thermal intervention." Marcus didn't hesitate. He pulled off his shirt and pressed his bare skin against Princess Lyra's crystal form. The contact was painful, like touching ice that burned. But he could feel his human body heat flowing into her failing crystal matrix. "What are you doing?" Commander Zix demanded. "Giving her my heat," Marcus replied through gritted teeth. "Humans maintain constant body temperature. I can keep her warm until we reach the surface." The final part of the rescue was a nightmare of pain and determination. Marcus felt his body heat being drained into both princesses as their crystal forms slowly stabilized. By the time they reached the surface, he was shaking with cold and exhaustion. Medical teams immediately surrounded the princesses, rushing them to advanced healing chambers. But before they took her away, Princess Lyra looked back at Marcus with eyes that sparkled with returning life. "Thank you," she whispered. "You saved us." Commander Zeeks helped Marcus to his feet. The crystal warrior's body was no longer flashing with anger or suspicion. Instead, it glowed with soft blue light that Marcus recognized as Zephyrian respect. 18 hours, the commander said quietly. You spent 18 hours in poisonous air, searching for children who weren't even your species. You nearly died keeping them warm with your own body heat. Marcus collapsed into a medical chair as human doctors checked his condition. He had severe toxic gas exposure and dangerous hypothermia from giving away so much body heat. But he was alive, and more importantly, so were the princesses. Why? Commander Zeeks asked the question that seemed to confuse him most. Why would you risk everything for alien children? What did you hope to gain? Marcus looked up at the crystal warrior with tired but clear eyes. I didn't hope to gain anything. That's not why humans help people. We help because someone needs help. We protect children because children should be protected. We don't do it for reward, or recognition, or political advantage. We do it because it's right. The commander stared at him for a long moment, his crystal body shifting through colors that Marcus couldn't read. Finally, he spoke in a voice filled with something that might have been wonder. Your species is not what we thought they were. 3 days later, Marcus sat in the Palace Medical Center, still recovering from his toxic gas exposure. His lungs were healing slowly, and the doctors said he would need weeks of treatment. But he was alive. And that was more than anyone had expected when he went down into the ancient chamber. Queen Thessara entered his room quietly. Her crystal body glowed with soft, silver light, instead of the angry white and red he had seen before. She looked smaller somehow, more fragile, like a mother who had almost lost her children. Ambassador Chen, she said formally, then stopped. Marcus. May I call you Marcus? He nodded, surprised by the gentleness in her voice. My daughters are alive because of you, she continued. The doctors say another hour in that chamber would have killed them. Their crystal matrices were breaking down completely. How are they doing? Marcus asked. Recovering well. They want to see you, but the medical team says you need rest first. The queen paused, her crystal face showing emotions that Marcus was learning to read. They told me what happened down there. How you kept them warm with your own body heat. How you shared your water and food and air with them. Any parent would have done the same thing, Marcus said quietly. Would they? The queen sat down in the chair beside his bed. I am not so sure. My advisors tell me that most species would have demanded guarantees of safety before risking themselves for alien children. You asked for nothing. Marcus shrugged. They needed help. That was enough. Queen Thessara was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was different. Thoughtful. For 300 years, our empire has interacted with dozens of species. We trade with them, negotiate with them, sometimes fight with them. But we have never seen anything like what you did. Your people called humans primitive, backward. A minor species with nothing of value to offer. She looked directly at Marcus. We were wrong. Not about your technology or your military power. We were right about those things. But we missed something much more important. What's that? Marcus asked. Your capacity for selfless courage. Your willingness to sacrifice for others without any hope of reward. She searched for the right word. Humanity. Over the following week, as Marcus recovered, the story of the rescue spread throughout the Zephyrian Empire. At first, many citizens didn't believe it. How could a primitive human risk everything for alien children? It didn't match their understanding of how species interacted with each other. But the princesses themselves told the story. They appeared on empire-wide communications, their crystal bodies bright with health again. They spoke about the human who had found them in the dark, who had kept them warm and calm through the longest night of their lives. He told us stories about Earth, Princess Lyra explained to the billions of Zephyrians watching. About human children who explore and get lost sometimes. He made us feel safe, even when we thought we were going to die. He shared his heat with us, Princess Nova added. Even though it hurt him, even though he could have died, he kept us alive with his own life force. The Empire's perception of humanity began to shift. Scientists studied the rescue, trying to understand how a supposedly inferior species had succeeded where Zephyrian technology had failed. The answer was uncomfortable for many to accept. Humans saw problems differently. While Zephyrian scanners looked for crystal signatures and energy patterns, human senses paid attention to simple things like cracks in walls and sounds in the ground. While Zephyrian technology focused on advanced solutions, human instinct led them to basic but effective approaches. Marcus returned to the trade negotiations a week later, still weak but determined to complete his mission. The atmosphere in the meeting room was completely different. Instead of suspicious aliens, he faced beings who looked at him with respect and curiosity. The Zephyrian Empire would like to propose a new trade agreement, Queen Thesara announced. Not as superior beings dealing with primitives, but as equals partnering with a species that has shown remarkable wisdom. The new agreement was far better than anything Earth had hoped for. Advanced crystal technology in exchange for human agricultural products and minerals. But more importantly, it included cultural exchange programs and joint exploration missions. Your people have something we need to learn, Queen Thesara explained privately to Marcus. We have become so focused on technological advancement that we forgot simpler virtues. Compassion, courage, the willingness to help others without expecting anything in return. Marcus smiled. Those aren't human virtues, Your Majesty. Those are universal virtues. Every species has them. Maybe your people just need reminders sometimes. Perhaps, the Queen agreed. But your species seems to remember them better than most. On Marcus's last day at the palace, the princesses came to say goodbye. They brought him a gift, a small crystal pendant that glowed with warm light. It's made from our tears, Princess Lyra explained. Crystal tears of gratitude. In our culture, it's the most precious thing we can give to someone who saved our lives. We call you the Warm Keeper now, Princess Nova added. Marcus put on the pendant and felt its gentle heat against his chest. I'll treasure it always. But remember, I wasn't the only one who was brave. You two survived 3 days in that chamber. You kept each other alive until help could find you. That took courage too. The princesses smiled, their crystal faces bright with happiness. Will you come back and visit us? Try to keep me away, Marcus laughed. As Marcus's ship prepared to leave the Zephyrian system, he received a message from Queen Thesara. It was being broadcast throughout the Empire and transmitted to every known species in the galaxy. Today we say farewell to Ambassador Marcus Chen of Earth. The Queen's voice echoed across space. He came to our world as a representative of what we thought was a primitive species. He leaves as a friend who taught our empire the true meaning of civilization. Technology makes us powerful, but compassion makes us worthy of that power. The humans have both. They are welcome in our space, always. Marcus leaned back in his chair and watched the crystal spires of the Zephyrian homeworld shrink behind him. He thought about the dark chamber, where 2 alien children had faced death with quiet courage. He thought about the moment when those children chose to trust a strange human who promised to save them. Humanity had many flaws. They were often violent, sometimes selfish, frequently short-sighted. But in the moments that mattered most, when someone needed help and no one else would provide it, humans had a tendency to step forward and do what was right. It wasn't about being the strongest or smartest or most advanced species in the galaxy. It was about being the species that would crawl through poisonous darkness to save alien children, simply because those children needed saving. Marcus touched the warm crystal pendant against his chest and smiled. Maybe that was enough. Maybe that was everything. The stars stretched ahead toward Earth, toward home, toward a future where humans and Zephyrians would explore the galaxy together. Not as primitive species and advanced civilizations, but as friends who had learned to see the best in each other. And somewhere in the Crystal Palace behind him, two alien princesses were telling their favorite story to anyone who would listen. The story of the human who kept them warm in the darkness, who shared his life to save theirs, who taught an entire empire that true strength comes from protecting those who cannot protect themselves. The story of why humanity, despite all its flaws, might just be the galaxy's most precious species after all.